What's up guys? We are back in Nick Studio and today I want to show you some tricks about kick and bass. So let's dive into the project. Okay, as you can see here, I've already set a bit of the project. We have the kick, we have the bass. Actually this is a sub bass because the main bass is this one. I wrote down some funky notes with this Scarby Rickenbacker bass, which I love. Then let's see what I use on the kick. First of all, I have a spectrum on my master chain that allows me to see which peaks the kick is reaching. So let's see. Okay, minus 18 for me is good. So I go with my kick chain that I have here alongside all my mastering chains. This is a thing I do a lot. So it increased my workflow, and I just drag it here. As you can see, we have 4 main plugins, which are the FabFilter Pro Q3, the SSL EQ, a compressor from Ableton, and then a shaper box. So in my kick chain, I have 4 main plugins, which are the FabFilter Pro Q3, the SSL EQ, an acoustic compressor from Ableton, and then the shaper box. So let's see in the details what I do with the kick. First, I low cut the lowest frequencies up to 72 decibels here, and I go around 30 Hertz. Let's see in the kick what's the effect of this. Okay, it's barely hearable, but there are some low frequencies that in the overall mix can do some damage, so I just rather erase them. Then let's go to the high. It depends on which kick are you using. Now I'm using a very high tail kick, so I just cut out all the frequencies between 5,000 and the end. So let's see how much I'm going to cut. Let's see. Okay, here is nice, maybe around 5,000. Okay, then in the second part we have this SSL EQ that is really good to increase some frequencies instead of losing them. And I just do one thing before proceed to this. I play the kick, then I put the mouse over the EQ, and then I see the important frequencies of the kick, which in this case is the main key is D sharp. So D sharp is at 77 Hertz, so I'm going to boost the lows at 77. Let's do this, and about 1 decibels could be enough. Yeah, 136. Then let's do the same thing, but with the mid parts where when the kick is punching. You will see it here. Okay, around B5, so you can hear better. These are frequencies that are useless in our case, so instead of doing this, I'm just going to the EQ at 1.1. Then I try to cut some punchy here. Okay, that's it. This is with, this is without. It's very noticeable, but it kind of makes the difference. Then we have the compressor. Of course, you can use any type of compressor you want, but I use the Ableton one, which you can find here, just go into acoustic kick compressor and just play with the attack and the release. I rather have around 100 of attack, 100 milliseconds here, and then a pretty quick release. Then I have a little bit of gaining here with 3 decibel more. The threshold set at -15 around. Then you can see how the kick is improving. You really can see the difference. Then the last one is really important to me, because if I use a long kick and I want to do some funky bass line, so I have the kick to go straight and not to be so long, I just cut it overall with the shaper box, which allows me to do this. On trimming, I cut it, and I put the 1/4, and then the kick will be shorter than before. As you can see here, I'm cutting a little bit of the tail. But of course, I will come back later to this, because in the mix, sometimes you have to go back and see, when you have done the bass, which are the settings that you will put into it. Because sometimes a little difference can be really important for the overall mix of the track. So I can go to the bass line now. For the main sub bass, I'm using Serum now. This is a preset you can find on Julian Jordan's Serum pack that is called Best Sub Ever, which kind of tells you how good it is. And it sounds like this, very basic. The first thing I want to see if is the key of my track, which now is in E. So I'm going to the Waves plugins, and I go with the R bass. Then I put an EQ, which can be any EQ, but FabFilter is one of the best, so I also can see where my key is going with the frequencies. And I see that is around 40 Hertz. So with the R bass, I can increase all the harmonics around this frequency here. So let's see the difference when I set a bit less of gain, and then 2.5 decibel of intensity, and it goes like this. You can see the difference. It's a lot. This completely gives another feels to the bass. Then I will get rid of the frequency I don't need. So for the sub bass, I'm going around the 200 Hertz here. So the sub bass is this one. So I can do a little bit of sidechain, again with the shaper box. Now I can choose which sidechain I want to use. I'm going to put 1/4 like the kick. And I try to do exactly the opposite of what I made on the kick, so they don't clash at all. So I'm going around this for the sub bass. So let's see how it's going with the kick. Okay, now it's quite groovy, but I need something else, which I'm finding here on the pitch bend. I just right click on this here, this knob here, and I'm going to have some automations on the pitch bend, because these are the things that makes your bass unique. So I'm going to pitch it down on the first. Let's see how it works. Nice, maybe a bit earlier. Then I'm going to pitch it up at the end. So okay, now it sounds like this. Okay, it started taking shape. Maybe I will go down with the semitones on the up band because it's going too high, in my opinion. Okay, now it's much better. Then I see on the spectrum which frequencies and decibels are we hitting. Okay, it's all around -18, so should be good. Maybe I'm going back to the sub bass for some tweaks. Then we're going into the mid bass, which is really important because it gives all the movement you need, because at a certain point of the track you will have the kick and the sub bass playing in mono, so you have to have something that is playing stereo that gives the right click to the track. Now I'm using this bass here, which is kind of a real bass, so I'm going to process it like if it is a real bass. So I'm going with the guitar amp from Waves, which is great. I try with the activator default, sometimes it works. As you can see, it makes the difference. Then I'm going to EQ. So I'm getting rid of the low because I already have the sub bass. So I'm going to cut around 100 Hertz. Let's see if it's going to clash with the sub bass. Okay, I think it's nice. And I also cut all the high frequencies because in a track, the highest frequency you will cover it with the drums, with FX, so you don't need it here. Here you need this area here. It's going around 100 to 250 for the mid bass, I think. Which is good because it's the area where your dynamics in the bass sounds. So let's see if I can add some distortion on it. Maybe with the Saturn, which is one of my favorite plugins, to have all the crispiness that you need for this bass. So let's see. Let's try some presets here. Okay, I love this one. Gives the right feels. Then I low a little bit of the mix, because I don't want it to be full 100%. Then I added some vintage tape or vintage exciter. It depends on what you want. For example, now I can use this just to see how it sounds. I'm going to some presets, maybe dynamic synth here. Let's see. Yeah, it sounds nice. Then I'm going for a little bit of reverb. I can barely use any reverb I want, but this time I'm going with the Valhalla Room, just to have the right click on the high part of the bass. So I'm going to do it depth, with depth at 80%, and then going to hit these frequencies here. No pre-delay at all. You see? You can hear how it changes, and it's going to add a little bit of dynamics. Then I'm going to have a little bit of sidechain too, which I can just copy and paste from the sub bass, but instead of it to be longer, I would like to for it to be shorter, because you have to feel the clicks and the transients going better than the sub bass. So let's see overall. Wow, it's nice. It's really nice. It's a good starting point for your track, but it's not the end, because on the overall bass, which I've already layered it here in a group, I'm going to put another compression to avoid all the peaks. And now I'm using the TR5. Let's see how many presets I have to see before getting into the results. While I'm doing this, I'm already checking the spectrum, because I don't want the bass to be over the kick drum. So I try to make it at least at the same page here. So too high for me. Let's go in down with the group. Or maybe let's just switch presets. And let's try to play with the sidechain high pass filter and the attack. Okay, now a little bit of input more. We can gain back a little bit on the input drive. So I'm going to, let's in the spectrum. Okay, now it's playing fair. So let's see overall the result. Wow, I really like it. So of course it's not finished, because you have to count that you need the percussions, you need another things that could fix your mid bass. But this is a very good starting point to focus on the groove. You have to focus better on which kind of percussions or hi-hats or rides you can put it into this groove, because as you can see, it's going very funky. So it's just up to you. Now you have a little bit of constructions here, but if you can play around it and just feel free to do what your mind tells you. Most important, you have to pay attention at the samples. This kick is the kick I've used into several tracks, and it's made by myself. So I layered a lot of kicks to do this kick right here. But there are a lot of samples that you can use that are already a bit processed, so you don't have to go too far into it. So feel free to try everything and make sure that this is the right kick for your kind of track you want to make. This is a really important choice. The right kick and the right bass will make the half of your track. So that's it, guys. These are my tricks for the kicks and the bass. I hope you liked that video. I remember you to subscribe to our channel and see you next week for some more content. Ciao!